So let's see, I've done a video on the tram stop at Mitcham, I've done Merton Park, I've done Morden Road. Let's do a video on Dundonald Road. Dundonald Road is the stop between Wimbledon and Merton Park. It's actually in Wimbledon. In fact, depending where you're trying to get to, it might be a better stop for Wimbledon than Wimbledon itself. There's a lot of faff at Wimbledon getting through ticket barriers before you can actually get on the tram. The history of Dundonald Road is quite short, because unlike Merton Park, Morden Road or Mitcham, Dundonald Road is a completely new stop. Those others were formerly railway stations that got rebuilt when the tram arrived. One of the big advantages of trams, and light rail in general, is that it can accelerate and decelerate very quickly, which means in turn that you can put stops closer together. So there is a stop at Dundonald Road where there was not one before. Now while the stop is new, the line is not. It's on what was once the Wimbledon and West Croydon Railway, which dates all the way back to 1855. I've covered the full history of this line before, fairly recently I seem to recall, so I'll keep it brief-ish here. The Wimbledon and Croydon Railway was built to connect the London and South Western Railway at Wimbledon with the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway at West Croydon. It took advantage of the fact that much of the route was already covered by the abandoned Surrey Iron Railway, which had opened in 1803 and closed in 1846. The line didn't serve much by way of settlements, at least not in the 1850s, but it did serve a lot of industry. So, while passenger numbers were never very high, it was a mightily useful freight route. As the suburbs grew around it, passengers were snatched away by buses, trams and the underground, so just when it should have been blooming, it, for want of a better word, wasn't. After the Second World War, the industries the line served went into decline. British Rail, who took the line over in 1948, faced a dilemma. They wanted nothing more than to close the line, but it had just enough support to ensure that they couldn't. Every time they tried, there was just too much local opposition. The line had friends in high places. Converting the line into a light rail system, which had first been proposed as far back as 1962, offered a possible solution. Light rail is more economical to operate than conventional rail. This was combined with a number of other proposals for tramway routes in the Croydon area, and other disused or underused railway lines to come up with what was known as the Tramlink, a network of tram lines centred on Croydon with branches to Wimbledon, Elmer's End, New Addington and Beckenham Junction. The first section of the network, from Croydon to New Addington, opened on the 10th of May 2000. The line to Wimbledon, which of course included Dundonald Road, opened to passengers 20 days later. Rather than one train shuttling up and down the Wimbledon and West Croydon line, there would be frequent trams in both directions. Fares are charged at the same rate as buses, i.e., at the time of writing, £1.75 for just as many journeys as you can make in an hour, and that includes continuing your journey by bus. And of course, as Dundonald Road demonstrates, stops can be situated more frequently for greater convenience. The stops are fully accessible, being as how they're basically ground level. All of this meant that the trams were far more attractive to passengers than the trains. In fact, for the first full year of operation, passenger numbers on the Wimbledon line were 8 times what they'd been when it was a conventional railway. Now, while Dundonald Road never had a station, it did have a signal box. Signalling in the steam age was a complicated business. Almost everything was mechanical. Signals and points were changed by means of cables attached to levers in the box. So the distance between signal boxes was limited to what one person could reasonably be expected to physically pull. And therefore signal boxes were far closer together than they are today. With modern signalling, everything's done electronically. As technology has grown more sophisticated, and more could be automated, we've needed fewer and fewer centres to operate signalling. Therefore, the Dundonald Road box was demolished in 1983. It was on the opposite side of the level crossing from the tram stop. I'm afraid there's nothing of it to see today. As far as I could tell, anyway. Other than the site of the signal box, the main distinguishing feature of Dundonald Road is the level crossing here. And as a final point, I should note that until 1909, the crossing here was known as Warple Road Crossing. So Dundonald Road might have been called Warple Road in another timeline. I guess all in all, you could call the tram stop at Dundonald Road an example of out-of-the-box thinking. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed today's video. If so, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I'd like to thank my donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon, and here on YouTube for your generous support. You are the convenient location to my signal box. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.